Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company, and welcome to Collector Conversations. If there's anything I sometimes regret in the watch collecting fraternity, it's that we often force ourselves to find colossal life milestones or accomplishments as a pretext for buying the watches we love. Today, we've got a collector who buys the watches he loves because he can, and my goodness, is it a breath of fresh air. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, I appreciate it.
That's how I actually started collecting. When I was in the Navy, for no real reason, I bought my first JLC back in 2010, and it's been a crazy ride since. So take me back to the first watch, but then let's jump straight into the watches you love.
Sure. So the first watch I ever bought, which I failed to bring with me, which would have made sense, of course, but I forgot, is a quartz Bulova, two-tone, with -10 ATM. Because that's what we did in the 90s. We did things a little differently. So
and how old were you back then?
I was 11 years old.
Okay, so it started early.
Started early, yeah. I saved up, cleaned gutters, did some landscaping. Then I went into a local watch shop, found the watch there, and I was like, this is amazing. So that kind of started the collecting.
Did you have like an aspirational grail back then? Anything from Tag Heuer to Casio to Rolex? Was there a goal back then?
No, but I will tell you one of the pieces here, the Chronoswiss, that was the watch, the Opus.
Back in the 90s, this thing was the bomb.
I think 1995 it won Watch of the Year or something like that, and it was in a magazine because computers weren't a thing at my age in 1995.
You read a magazine about a watch.
I looked at a
Can you
magazine,
imagine that?
right? And I fell in love with it, and it amazed me that there's human beings left that can take something with all these different gears and wheels and make something. So that stuck with me forever. And that just kind of opened the door to mechanical watches.
It's basically they gutted a chronograph and it still works.
Yeah.
That's the magic.
It's unbelievable.
Now, today let's talk a little bit about this because the company is under husband and wife ownership since 2012, and they have several model lines that are very religiously faithful to the original models, but they do make some changes. Talk a little bit about some of the changes here, because there have been some. This is very much a contemporary watch.
Yeah, so this is titanium, which I believe was the first time they did this. So this was semi-recent. So it's in titanium. The strap system, what's nice is when you buy a watch now from Chronoswiss, or at least this is my experience, the one thing that was always tough is changing the straps.
Yes.
Because, they're screw-in straps. So they actually give you a little kit now that kind of comes with it to easily change the straps. So that's one thing that's nice as well. But yeah, I mean, the main thing for me is the titanium is amazing. It's super lightweight.
And it's a juxtaposition too, because you've got the titanium, but you have a very traditional set of Breguet-style Pastille lugs. You've got the onion crown, the coined bezel, but then you've also got camo.
Yeah, believe it or not, that's kind of what set it off for me, was seeing the camo strap on it. I just think it's awesome, personally.
You and I seem to have very similar tastes, because green may be the dial color of the moment, but it'll also be my choice.
It's my favorite color. So that's part of it too. The dial, even though there's not much of it, it's actually like a 100 green type color.
And this is very cool because looking on the case back, it is a 7750 architecture, but these parts are finished. They're not just skeletonized. They actually spent time on the chronograph levers, the horns, the cam, and it's really nicely detailed.
Yeah, it's a great watch.
So now, okay, this is sort of the childhood dream realized. Let's talk about your most recent acquisition, because it is almost, the heart of summer, and Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. This isn't your first AP, but it is your latest. How'd you get here?
So, I love ceramic, as you will see. Black and ceramic is my favorite thing that exists in the world. So I got a call from AP in New York, and she said, hey, we have one of these available. Are you interested? Because I mentioned in the past how much I love ceramic. And again, I like the watch because it's usable. 300-meter water resistance, even though I hate water.
You and me both.
So
I get cold.
I say that as a justification to buy. Yeah. So, but the strap system on it now, I mean, you can literally swap those straps in seconds.
I mean, you could really unnerve someone by doing that by, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's super easy.
Flyback chrono, highly water resistant, and you've got this black and blue ceramic thing going on. So it's almost like a modern take on two-tone, just without the steel and gold.
Yeah, and it came with a black rubber strap as well. So if you put it on the black rubber, it's way more subdued and really not that noticeable. I mean, it's a large watch, of course, but the blue for summer kind of makes sense.
Now, I love the idea of having interchangeable straps, and I think that's one of the major trends of the last 5 years. It seems like everyone in the luxury space, even entry-level luxury like Baume & Mercier, they're going over to interchangeable systems.
Yeah.
But, okay, so let's stick with this theme for a moment, because you and I have a lot in common. This was always my dream, AP. A watch with a name, and for good reason.
Bumblebee. Yeah. Amazing.
Now, did you buy this back in period when it came out in 2009, or is it a more recent arrival?
No, I've had that for probably at least 10 years. So that puts me back, 2014? I think they made them up through 2017.
And the other thing, too, is we were talking about how much we hate marks on watches. You've got ceramic that doesn't mark, and then you've got carbon that does a great job of hiding it.
Right. I like watches that you can keep for a long time. There's a lot of ceramic and different materials here like that. This is a watch you can, I have worn this, and you can see in the light a little bit, different scratches, but when you're just looking at it, you can't tell. That carbon fiber masks everything, and then a ceramic bezel, it's...
Oh yeah, and I think it's great when you've got watches that you can wear without fear, because sometimes with dress watches, particularly in precious metal, it's like you almost feel like, okay, well, I need to wait until I'm going to the opera or a wedding, or we talk about life milestones to buy watches. Sometimes when we don't have confidence in durability, we also kind of reserve special occasions to wear them.
Yeah, see, I don't, like we talked earlier, I don't have any of that. I buy them because that looks cool, that's interesting, and then I buy it. So. And
you don't necessarily go, the predictable route, because you do have some things here. You've got the Royal Oak, and you've also got the Laureato, which is a very different take, a much smaller inside baseball brand, but you've got the ceramic.
Yeah, again, it's skeletonized beautifully. There's so much hand finishing that's done in that watch. And I got this actually from you guys.
We appreciate that.
So it's a beautiful watch, super comfortable, lightweight, ceramic, doesn't scratch.
And that's sort of like where the tears come from with these integrated bracelet sports watches. They are always so well finished. If they're in anything but ceramic, you wind up with that first cut, almost like, it's almost like two cuts. It's a dent on the bezel, but also on your heart.
Yeah,
with
your
ceramic,
soul. Yeah, right.
you don't have that problem.
You don't have to worry about it. Of course, you can't just throw it at a cement wall. But other than being an animal, you're going to be fine.
Exactly. And you know what I think really here? The finishing you get here, the internal beveling, the interior angles of the movement, like this, to me, is a higher level of standard finish than you would get on a garden variety of AP.
And it's extremely readable skeleton. You can see how those hands pop with the lay. You can read that, even at nighttime. There's lume, of course, but even if you just catch a street light, you can, I'm telling you, these are great watches. They're totally underrated.
Not only underrated, but a lot of people think, oh, the Laureato GP's getting in on the integrated bracelet bandwagon. Well, no, wait. The Laureato came out in 1975.
I think before the Nautilus, right?
Before the Nautilus, before the Jumbo Ingenieur, before the Vacheron 222. So yeah, this is what we would call in the Navy a plank owner, one of the original crew members. So a lot going on here. I guess because it is a practical time teller, I gotta ask, do you have any kind of inhibitions about buying a watch that is style first? If it's difficult to tell time, do you still get in or are you out?
No, if it speaks to me. I don't have any rules. That's the thing. I got no rules. So this Trilobe here, this is a case in point. You've got no hands on it. It's, when you get to know how to read the time on it, of course, it's super easy. But that's a cool watch.
And you were just drawn to it. I've got orbital displays of time. I've got this prism-like three-dimensional movement. I got a micro rotor, and if there's one theme I see, aside from your mainstream watches, you do have Vacheron and AP, and there's a lot to recommend them. But you've got a lot of watches that are associated with identifiable people.
Yeah.
Gautier Massenot, you've got Felix Baumgartner and Martin Fry at Urwerk, Oliver and Eva Epstein at Chronoswiss, Claude and Serge at Armin Strom. I don't want to get too far ahead, but what is it about these smaller brands that's pulled you in? Because you've got more of these than the big brands.
I'm self-employed. I know every day you start your day with 12 things that you're gonna get done. You end up with -3 accomplished. So I have a feel for these people because it's tough. It's not easy, and I respect the grind. I respect what these people, I can only imagine, go through. Especially during the COVID time, the supply chain issues, the extreme demand. And again, it's not even a purposeful thing. For whatever reason, I'm more drawn to these types of pieces. But really, it does ultimately come down to I just respect what these people go through, because it's tough.
Yeah, because when you're in a big, brassy, institutional type of organization, if you miss a day of work or you don't show up or you're having an off day, business as usual continues. But if you're self-employed, if you're a sole proprietor, if you're running a small business like some of these independents, if you don't bring your A game, it doesn't get done.
Yeah, and I mean, you are really putting it out there. You don't have shareholders that can back you up where you can just sell more stock, or these people, they put it all out on the line, and I respect that. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm drawn to it.
And the flip side of that, the good side of that, is that you get a more focused effort, something that can be more individual, more, I would say, reflective of a person's vision rather than something a committee would put together.
That's totally true.
So let's talk about the Stefan Kudoke right here.
Yeah.
This is as recent as they come. Now, we started out with very elaborate Baroque type engraved watches, things that were often very fantastical, octopuses, subsea environments, extremely polarizing because they were so ornate.
Right.
2018, he gets into the Kudoke 1, Everything Changes, and that brings us to the present.
Yeah.
Let me know what the purchase experience was like here, because this is a very small brand.
They're very nice people. So thankfully, I got the full back engraved, and Eve, I believe is her name, his wife was nice enough to. She's like, we technically don't have the time to do this, and then she emailed back. She's like, you know what, we'll do it for you. Don't worry about it. We'll get it done. But it was a super easy process. Very nice people.
There wasn't a wait list? You weren't asked to buy 6 other watches?
I wasn't. See, and that's again, you're treated. I wouldn't say that the others don't treat you with respect, but these people want your business, and they work with you. And that's, again, that small business, atmosphere of you want to bring people in, you don't want to put so much limitation to do business with them. I mean, you're not going to be successful, so yeah.
This idea of turning away customers to make the watch more desirable, that doesn't even occur remotely.
No, and it can't. I mean,
Stefan
I'm not in a
Kudoke.
position in my life to do that either, and that's why I respect it. I mean, these people want to sell these watches. To me, it's not a game for them. And I'm not saying that some brands are or aren't, but I'm just saying they work with you. They're super nice. I mean, when we talk about the Linde Werdelin watches, I mean, I can go on and on for an hour about those people.
That
They're
gets
fantastic.
even more focused. But this is great because you get kind of the best of Stefan Kudoke, which is his real mastery of engraving. This movement is, I think, distantly based on a Habring A11, which is based on the train of a 7750, but he's made it his own by fabricating the parts, and this engraving, oh my gosh, I think there's even a Mobius strip, like an infinity symbol right on the balance cock.
Which is their, right.
And so it's like you've got the ornate design of the very early Kudoke watches, but then you've also got the sobriety and simplicity of the front.
It's a beautiful watch, and it's a great way to tell time. It's interesting how it's got three hands essentially rotating. It's amazing.
Yeah, the concentric arcs, it's super cool, and a lot of people are gonna be like, what time is it? But then you get to explain, and that's the fun.
And that's the point. Like a lot of these watches, it's not a simple just three-hander. There's something with it that's unique, so.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Linde Werdelin Monster, and the theme is sea monsters. Tell me a little bit about the people behind this and how it came to be in your collection.
So Jorn and Eloise Werdelin, extremely nice people. Again, people that you send a message to them at 1 a.m, or not that you should do that, but they'll respond. I mean, these are people that, again, care about the brand. Jorn, as you know, you've interviewed him. I mean, he's way ahead of the times when it comes to these things.
And he really is, because back when I was at Watch You Want and we were running a strip mall South Florida used watch vendor, I mean, I would call up people at brands and they'd respond like I was running a bordello. They'd be like, absolutely not.
Right.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm coming to the United States. I can stop by and visit you. Let's do a show.
Nice.
This was back in like 2016. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
This isn't like a crank call?
Right.
Okay, let's go. And he did. And he came on my program. We had a great talk about his brand. And they make fewer watches than you think, just a few hundred, and they're very unique. This is actually a British engraver, I think Johnny Dowell. He did all the engraving and gilding here.
Yep, all by hand. And Jorn told him, I have no direction. Do what you want, other than, that he, and this is what he chose. King Nerd is what he goes by. This is what he chose to do. It's all hand engraved titanium. And the thing I love about these watches are, and I wish more people knew about them, It's a 44 by 46 case. Anybody can wear it. And for me, the thing that's nice, like a watch, if you can sleep with it, you know that it's a very comfortable watch.
And people, you know, they say, oh, 44, like we can't possibly wear. No, this is not like a Royal Oak 44 or a Hublot. No. This is a flat watch. This is an easy watch to wear. Yeah. You know, they don't want to be pigeonholed as Danish design,
right?
But there is a strong kind of like Danish ethic to this because the simplicity of the case means the fit is outstanding.
It is.
And I've got a baby wrist, and this still works.
Yeah, yeah.
Another thing I love, the photorealistic moon phase.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. All loomed up. The loom on it's absolutely amazing. You know, the moon phase is a great complication to me. I have a few watches, I don't know if I have them here, but I have a few watches with moon phase complications, and yeah.
And then it says right on the back there, King Nerd 1 of 1.
Yeah, this is why I love the brand, because they're ahead of the curve. He has an auction program that he started. So he will make unique pieces, and then he will put them up, capitalism at its best, whatever the market dictates. He doesn't even set the price.
There's no reserve.
No, well, there's no reserve. Well, I think they have a starting price, but it's very, very reasonable. And then it just goes from there, whatever you want. So when I knew they were doing this, I was lucky enough, this was the first one they did, to bid on it and win, and I'm thrilled, obviously.
And you're right, they are always ahead of the curve. They started doing factory certified pre-owned before almost anyone.
Everybody.
Back when they first launched the brand, they had this crazy series of manga comic books.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, they did. I know exactly what you're talking
about. But it was fun and it was irreverent.
Right. And they actually beat the iPhone to the market with like electronic, because they used to, well, you know, they had the device.
The snap-on module, you know, let's be honest, a mechanical watch isn't a dive watch. No one uses that as their primary diver. So like, well, we're gonna create a module that's electronic and computerized that snaps on top.
On the top.
And that's why the case is shaped the way it is.
That's right, yeah, that's why these are here. You know, so when people go, oh, that's a Nautilus plate. Well, actually, it's indented, and that's how you would connect this device. Skiing, diving,
land sports, sea sports.
Yeah, so I love the brand. They're great people too. So
very cool there. So now this is a watch that at first glance people are like, oh well, it's a Franck Muller tonneau case, but no, it's not. It's chaotic and crazy. Yeah. It's the crazy hours.
So if you like Franck Muller, to me, when I think of it, I always think of the crazy hours complication. I mean, I love these watches. I love the shape of the case. The rose gold's amazing. All of the indices loom up beautifully at nighttime. And again, it's a neat way to tell time. People look at it and they're like, what are you doing? What is happening? Why do you have this? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, why does it say 38161149?
Exactly, yeah.
Because the machine knows the order of the hours.
Right.
And I always felt a little sheepish on Franck Muller products that were just 3 hands and a date or 3 hands. And it says Master of Complications on the back. I want a complication.
I understand. Yes. And that's, I mean, when you're right. So this has a really cool jump hour complication. And like you said, it knows internally, you know, it's set to go to the right place. But nonetheless, it's a really cool watch to explain to people.
And it's one of those surprise and delight things. Like I could bloviate for 2 hours about, you know, the mastery of Philippe Dufour and the finishing that he's achieved over his decades. And you show this to someone, and all of a sudden it lights a spark. They understand why you love luxury watches, and it's nonverbal, and it's instant.
Right, I agree with you, yeah.
Like I said, there are identifiable people associated with a lot of these watches, and a big part of that, I think, is the appeal of Moser, because the Milan brothers are basically the face of the brand.
Yes.
I mean, we've got the Vantablack Tourbillon. How'd you even discover this? Where'd you find this?
So when the Vantablack first came, I love black. Black and green are my favorite colors by far.
I can see you got quite a bit.
Yeah, I got a lot of black, and I got a decent amount of green watches. The science behind that, the absorption of light, absolutely unbelievable. You throw a tourbillon just because, why not? And then it's black DLC'd case. I mean, for me, this is like the ultimate.
I mean, they even blackened the tourbillon bridge on the back.
Yeah, they did, even on the back of it. Yeah.
And people don't realize, like, you see Vantablack online, and sometimes you see these reflections on the crystal. That's not a reflection on the material.
Right.
Vantablack, it's 99.965% of light absorbed. It's literally where light goes to die.
Yes.
And it's got black hands.
And that's the amazing thing. The Vantablack is so black that the black hands pop out.
None blacker.
Right. It's great. Right. It's amazing. Yeah.
And then they've blackened the tourbillon itself.
Yeah.
A very cool piece. And again, another one of these indies that's very closely identified with Bertram and Edouard. And I think it's just fun when you can picture the face of the person behind your watch and not have to guess how many people were on the committee.
Yeah, and this is another box or another watch I bought from you guys.
Oh, I appreciate that as well. By the way, we sell watches. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, they do. You do.
Fun fact, right?
It's good.
Okay, so now moving along, this is actually one of the most accessible watches, but also one of the most fun, because you've got the Bel Canto, but this is an hour striker for, I would say, Longines money. But it's so much fun.
Look, the dial on it, until you see it in person, it can turn purple, it can turn blue, it can turn green. A lot of the parts manufactured in this, some MB&F parts, like the places that MB&F gets their parts from, actually Christopher Ward used. And you don't have to spend $9 million to enjoy watches. That's the thing too. Like, again, that's why I don't have like a degree or a pedigree of what I follow. If I like it, it's cool.
And again, you're very honest about what appeals to you. It's something that strikes you. It's not premeditated. It's not like you've got this roadmap and you're going to buy this watch, then that watch to earn the third watch.
Right.
So you don't necessarily go from like an affordable watch to a mid-price watch to an expensive watch. You know, you've gone from Audemars Piguet back to Chris Ward.
Yeah, I guess so.
And, you know, I love it because you're absolutely right about this dial. Just holding it in my hand, it's turning from sort of a Kelly green metallic to like flat out teal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. And the complication is actually extremely useful. I mean, when I wear it during the day, like if I'm at work, it helps you know, like, oh, wow, an hour has passed. You know, it is actually a useful complication. I mean, this was $3,000 something US.
This is what Christopher Ward does well. They take very interesting concepts, they make them accessible, and I would even say maybe they use some of the style features of more expensive watches. I see a little bit of like Ulysse Nardin freewheel here, but in a good way.
Agreed.
I think having sort of the floating bridges, the visible pivots, some of the subsidiary, motion works, it's just a really cool look. And it is very mechanical, putting all the emphasis on the dial side mechanism. It's a basic caliber internally, but on the dial side, it's all Chris Ward. That is theirs.
Yeah, it's, again, really fun, neat piece. Yeah.
And you could meet someone wearing a Grubel Forsey, and they would fall in love with this, because the mechanical appeal is universal.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things, somebody sees it, they're automatically drawn in of, what is this? What are you doing? What's happening? And that's, I guess that is something that I kind of do go after, so.
Yeah, you've got these like surprise and delight features, crazy hours, hour striking, and then maybe a little bit more subtle right here. Why don't we talk a bit about this Armin Strom Equal Force, because this is something that's not very well understood by folks. Armin Strom, small manufacturer out of Biel, started under, its namesake Armin Strom with a lot of engraving and skeletonization. But since 2009, it's a movement manufacturer and an incredible one.
Yeah, I think, and you could correct me because you're the man of all knowledge of all watches, but I think when you get one of their pieces, they actually disassemble it and put it back together twice, and clean it and then disassemble it. So I got this. This was a collective horology. They did like a little collaboration with them.
Silicon Valley area kind of watch enthusiast group.
Yeah. Anyways, they do a great job of these pieces. So again, I love green. I love how the dial.
Basically, all the action, it's on the dial side.
Yeah, and they blackened the back underneath here. If you look at this compared to a regular version of this watch, they did a lot of different things. It's a titanium case, which they had never done before. The green like fume dial, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, it's got a really nice gradient from black to almost like a, what do you want to call that? Like a mint green at the
it's like a mint green, and then the second section is almost a definitive mint green color. But again, the science behind it and what it's doing to keep time accuracy is just unbelievable.
And it's got features here that you don't see anymore. It's got a motor barrel, which is like an old pocket watch feature.
And on that, it has a little power reserve feature as well.
Yes, the stop works doubles as a power reserve indicator.
So that's how you know exactly.
And you got a little micro rotor up here.
Yeah, which you can see,
And the idea is that they've taken a mainspring with a very flat torque curve in the center, and the stopworks is cut off the ends, so it can only run in that flat center. So without a super expensive remontoir or a fusee, you get equal force when it's running.
Yeah. Again, another great independent brand with what they're doing. They have so many very interesting watches.
I would say from an engineering standpoint, they're probably one of the most underrated among independents. People don't know how sophisticated they really are.
Right.
Or how good the finish. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inward angles just on the dial.
Right. Yeah.
So why don't you model this on your wrist?
Sure.
Because I think people always wonder, like, well, how big are these collector wrists?
Yeah, I mean, mine is about 6.85. It's pretty exact. I don't know why I know that.
And for my international audience, I'm 16 centimeters circumference.
Well, sure, that goes without saying. Yeah, there's, but you can see, and again, it's titanium. I mean, that wears beautifully. Titanium, put a different strap on it. You should see the amount of straps I have as well. It's a real problem. It's a real problem.
Do you have a thing for like lightweight watches? You've got titanium, you've got carbon, you've got ceramic. But then I also see you've got gold. So going in like the complete opposite direction, I don't think it gets much more formal and traditional than a Vacheron 1921. What piqued your interest here?
The dial. It's amazing. It's an offset dial. It's so classy. I mean, when I think of Vacheron, I mean, that to me is what I think of when I think of Vacheron. I got the funny story behind it is I got that from a guy a long time ago in Australia. This thing was beaten. I mean, you should have seen this thing. It did not work. It was completely busted. Beaten terribly.
A beater Vacheron?
Yes. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy this thing because I got an unbelievable price on it. He accepted it, kind of like a story you told me earlier. And I brought it back, had Vacheron service it. The thing looks like it's brand new.
I would never have guessed.
It was a beater, man. You should have seen this. It was crazy.
Cheers to Vacheron that you made this thing look legit. Normally something that's been that reconditioned is going to look it.
They did. I'll be honest. There was one nick in it that was so deep. I was like, there's nothing they're going to be able to do with this. I don't know what they did to do it, but it came back in mint condition.
A beautiful piece. Do you consider it a driver's watch?
No. I don't. I mean, if I'm being honest.
I got to ask the man who owns one, because there's this long-standing myth that it was originally a driver's watch, and I just want to know, like, if it's viewed that way by collectors.
To me, and maybe it is to some people, but to me, it's not very complicated to look at your watch when driving.
I didn't think
so. I don't need it to be adjusted at a weird angle.
This is my driver's watch.
Right, yeah, and I don't have problems. So I can see the theory behind it, but for me, no, it's just a watch with a cool dial. So.
Back in the 90s, when you were just getting revved up as a watch collector and enthusiast, Urwerk was just getting revved up as a watch manufacturer. And frankly, it didn't take initially. It wasn't until the 2005 1033 where they're like, well, why don't we show the whole carousel? That they really caught fire. And you've got the Urwerk. This is the 1033.
I agree. Yeah, this is the loom on this too. And a lot of people don't know this, but the loom is amazing on this. I mean, you can see it at nighttime and when you're looking at it in a dark room, because the hours are like cone-shaped almost. It's visually wild to look at when it's all loomed up at nighttime. But yeah, it's, again, a cool way of telling time. They do a great job. They put it out there. I mean, this is, you think back in the 90s, this is a real risk-taking type of watch to make.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of doing like satellite hours and hanging your hat on that.
Right.
The 90s was a pretty conservative era. Smaller cases, conventional dials, round cases. They flew in the face of all that. Millennium Falcon-shaped watches, Sputnik-shaped watches, satellite hours. But this was their breakthrough piece. This was like a breakthrough the same way Stefan Kudoke found breakthroughs by making watches that were maybe just a little bit more restrained.
Yeah, right.
Was white gold just what you found, or were you aiming for the white gold model?
So I like white gold because part of the reason why I like black, it's understated. I'm not looking, I'll be honest with you, no one in the world until after they see this even knows I collect watches, minus my wife and daughter. This is a private hobby I have. I'm not part of any groups. I don't do anything like that. So
you wear your watches for you.
I do. I don't really, of course you have your friends that also collect that you talk to, but with that being said, I like no one knows what this is. It's a black on black watch. It's completely unnoticed.
It's unbranded.
Right. Well, yeah, literally it's unbranded. So I like white gold for the same reason. Could be steel. Nobody knows. Of course, I got a couple pieces in here that aren't. But in general, I like white gold for that reason, because I'm not looking to draw attention. So the yellow gold is cool though. Like the yellow gold version is unbelievable.
Because it's almost like the two things that could never have been combined. You've got the most traditional gold with a wild design.
Right.
So now you do have quite a few watches that are not here, so we might have to do like a part 2 to this collection.
All right, we can do that.
But there's always kind of, the future, and it does seem like you know what you like, and especially in the case of the Chronoswiss, when you get a bug on your mind, it stays there.
Yeah, that's my wife will tell you, that's a real problem in life in general. Yeah.
Like once planted, the seed grows.
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to? Like what directions could you take in the future?
It's a good question. I don't have an answer because I don't think about it.
Which
it's really
is incredibly refreshing.
I don't have a plan. I do have a cool Anne Ordain watch coming that I've been waiting for now the wait times are like, 5 years for these watches. But it's the lacquered dial with the wood underneath that they made a steel out of, and it was a wood original.
And they're great because they've sort of been like one of the foremost pioneers of this notion that you can have a very in-demand fine watch that doesn't require excruciatingly complicated movements or ridiculous prices.
Yeah, again, a very affordable watch. I don't have any plans. I make no plans. If something strikes me and I can do a deal or I can buy one, I buy it.
Okay, so let's make one plan today. Because there's clearly more where this came from, and maybe even more on the way yet to be conceived. Let's do a part 2.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Yeah, nice being here. Thank you.
And for those of you out in the interwebs, I'm just going to say this: stay tuned.